and welcome back to my channel. So today's video is one that has been extremely requested. You guys have suggested this a ton and I have not been just leaving you high and dry. I was actually purposefully waiting on something that happened just a few days ago. Today's video is on Danielle Stislicki, and this case is fairly recent. We are almost approaching the 1-year anniversary mark for her disappearance, and big things are happening in her case. Danielle was a 28-year-old girl from Farmington Hills, Michigan. She was described as extremely friendly. She was a huge people person. She was responsible. She was smart. She absolutely loved her family and her friends. She loved life. She always was making new plans, and she also was the type of person that would drop anything to help someone in need. Danielle was last seen on December 2nd of 2016. She was leaving the Southfield MetLife building where she worked along with her mother as a consultant. She had plans that weekend to hang out with her mother and her family. They were going to decorate for Christmas, but they were doing that on Saturday and Sunday, so her Friday night was left open to do anything of her choice. So she decided to meet up with her longtime friend Sarah and have dinner. So she left work at around 5 p.m. and she was seen leaving work. She even texted her friend Sarah and let her know that she got off early and she was just stopping by her house real quick, which was about 30 minutes away from the MetLife building, and then she would be on her way for the dinner. By 6 p.m. she had not shown up to dinner, and her friend Sarah became very concerned. Like I said, Danielle was a very responsible person. She was so excited to go to this dinner. She had talked to her mom about it. She wanted to get cooking. She was excited. It was going to be a fun weekend. So for her to not show up in over an hour raised a lot of concerns. After calling a few times, Sarah decided to actually go to Danielle's apartment to make sure she was okay, because keep in mind, this was completely out of character for her. She always surrounded herself with people and she always responded to anyone who contacted her, so this was really bizarre. She got to Danielle's apartment to see that her car was still parked outside, so she assumed Danielle was inside, but when she knocked on the door, she got absolutely no response. She began becoming even more concerned and even went to the extent of screaming, honking multiple times, and throwing pebbles at Danielle's window in hopes of getting her attention. And when there was still no response from Danielle, she decided to call Danielle's parents to let them know that they needed to get over there immediately. When Danielle's parents got there, they were equally as surprised that Danielle's Jeep was sitting right outside of her apartment, yet no one was able to figure out if she was inside. They knocked a few times, called a few times, no one came to the door, so they used a spare key to get inside. They realized that despite Danielle's car being outside, it appeared as if no one had been in the apartment. Her phone wasn't inside, her keys weren't inside, so where exactly did Danielle go? They immediately filed a missing persons report for Danielle and called police. Police showed up to her Independence Green apartment. They decided to look in the vehicle. Her wallet and all of its contents were still inside the vehicle, along with other personal items. The only things that were missing was a Samsung Galaxy Core Prime phone in a rose case and her keys, which were on a pretty distinctive keychain that I will put a picture of. So Danielle, along with her keys and her phone, disappeared, but her wallet, all of her money, everything else was just left behind. Parents and police immediately believed that there was foul play involved. This was completely out of character, and I know I say that in a lot of these videos, but this was 100% out of character for this girl. This was not something she would have done, period. She would not have just wandered off on her own or even gone anywhere or left plans unattended without telling somebody. So everyone was pretty much under the assumption at this point that someone had taken her and was holding her against her will. Police also immediately thought that her car was not driven there by Danielle herself. They believed someone else had driven the vehicle. Police started searching the apartment and surrounding areas. They searched the woods. They brought in friends, family, canine units. There were helicopters, the whole 9 yards, and they could not find a single shred of Danielle anywhere. She literally just vanished. However, very soon, some pretty breaking news comes to light. People working at MetLife had seen Danielle after she had left work. Right down the road, Danielle appeared to be talking to a man that was standing by his car with the hood of his car up. It seemed as if the car was broken down, and at first thought it would seem like, oh, she was a nice girl, she was helping out a stranger. However, this person was not a stranger. This was a man that had previously worked at MetLife and was an acquaintance of Danielle Stislicki. His name was Floyd Galloway, and he was a security guard that had formerly worked at MetLife. About 3 weeks later, police went and searched Galloway's home on Oxford Road in Berkeley, Michigan, which was about 30 minutes away from Danielle's apartment and 15 minutes away from MetLife. Police did not release what they took from the home, but there were neighbors who witnessed the entire thing. This neighborhood was not a bad neighborhood. It was a really good neighborhood, and nothing like this had ever happened before. So obviously, when police show up and start pulling things like mattresses, bits of carpet, and an entire car out of a home, that's going to raise a lot of red flags to neighbors. And that is exactly what neighbors report police took from the Galloway's home. Danielle's parents and friends immediately created a story of what they thought happened to her the night that she disappeared. As I stated in the beginning of this video, she was an extremely nice person. She knew this man. This wasn't just a stranger, so she easily would have trusted him. If he went to the side of the road and made it appear like his car was broken down, she would have helped him and she would have offered him a ride. And her parents believe that that's exactly what happened. She offered him a ride, drove him to his home, and he made some sort of sexual advances on her, to which she declined. And at that point, things kind of spiraled downhill, and they think he may have killed her. I know from this point in the video that seems like kind of a long shot, but more things are about to start to unravel that will make you really question what is happening with Galloway, and that it is very possible that he did something to Danielle. Galloway's sister-in-law Elizabeth Newton then came forward and really started raising a ton of red flags in this entire case, and every single one really incriminated Galloway. She said that she had known Floyd Galloway for over 10 years. He was married to her sister, and the whole entire family loved him. He always seemed like such a great person. You know, they never ever thought he would be the type of person that would commit any sort of crime. So when she initially heard that police were investigating into him, she was absolutely shocked. So she thought it was just one big misunderstanding, and the best way they could clear his name would be to find this girl to get him out of the spotlight. So in order to do that, she went on Facebook and started sharing missing posters of Danielle Stislicki, and something very unexpected happened. The next morning when she woke up, she had received phone calls from her sister and her mother, absolutely infuriated that she shared these posters on her page. She said that their behavior was very, very bizarre, and it almost seemed like they knew something that she didn't. I also saw in one article that he actually put out a restraining order of some kind against her after she posted this on Facebook for trying to link him to this disappearance. I mean, I can't 100% confirm that, I will say that, but it appears as if they were very, very angry with her for bringing more attention to this case. Then immediately went to the police station because she felt like something was wrong, and she wanted to confirm that there had been searches done at Galloway's home just to make sure she wasn't going crazy and to see what they had found out. That's when a sergeant informed her that there had been witnesses that came forward that actually saw Danielle at the Galloway's home the night that she disappeared. Not only did they just see Danielle there, they saw Danielle there with Floyd Galloway. Now I will say this information is coming from Elizabeth Newton. Police will not confirm this. It is an active investigation, and with the other active investigations that I've done, like very recent active investigations, police and FBI especially do not release a lot of information to protect the integrity of their case, which is 100% understandable. So just keep in the back of your mind that that statement is not confirmed. We are not 100% positive that neighbors saw them together, at least from a legal standpoint. Elizabeth Newton was obviously upset by this information. She was extremely concerned. Obviously, I would be horrified if my sister was with someone that possibly had something to do with someone's disappearance. And that's when she remembered a very interesting conversation she had had with him about a year and a half prior. This whole conversation is very strange to me, and I'm sure it'll be very strange for all of you watching this. Elizabeth claimed that somehow they got onto the topic, her and Floyd Galloway, of sex addiction. And he apparently came clean to her and said that he had struggled with addiction to porn and sex, and he thought about it all the time, and he even had thoughts of cheating on his wife. Now, let me just say, this kind of came out of the blue. I am not sure how personally to feel about this. I also find it strange because I don't know why someone would confess to their wife's sister that they were thinking about cheating on that wife. I find that very strange, let alone telling your wife's sister that, but just telling anyone that in general just kind of seems off and bizarre to me. But on the other hand, maybe he was trying to insinuate something to Elizabeth. Keep in mind, that is just speculation, but that is what she said he claimed, and that rings a really bad bell for me. It was even more upsetting for Elizabeth because Floyd Galloway's wife, at the time that he admitted this to Elizabeth, was just starting treatment for cancer, which is another huge part in this case. Elizabeth Newton firmly believes still to this day that he was waiting. He was waiting for the right person to attack. That it wasn't just thoughts of him cheating on his wife, it was plans that he was waiting to put into place, and it all just fell in line way too perfectly with Danielle Stislicki. And then something even crazier happens. On September 4th, 2016, a 28-year-old jogger, she was a young mother, was jogging in Edward Hines Park in Livonia, which was, I think, about 15 minutes away from Danielle Stislicki's apartment. This girl was grabbed from behind after she passed a man and dragged down an embankment. This man repeatedly punched her and was trying to take her pants off, and when she asked him what he wanted, he said, "I just want sex." You know, after this, she started begging him, "Please, I have a daughter, I have a family, don't do this to me, let me go." And one way or another, she ended up getting away and ran and reported this to police. Months later, the Livonia police were really looking into this case and looking at sketches. They were looking at information from surrounding areas, which include Farmington Hills. And that's when a Farmington Hills police officer said that the sketch that was drawn from the girl who was grabbed in Hines Park strongly resembled Floyd Galloway. They did 2 lineups, including Floyd Galloway in both of them, but unfortunately, the 28-year-old jogger from the park could not identify him in the lineup. So that's when they decided to use a more well-known method, which is DNA testing. They took DNA that was found from the Stislicki case. Again, they're not releasing a lot of information, so I'm not exactly sure where exactly they found this DNA. And then they also looked at DNA that was taken from the jogger, and lo and behold, it was a match. Livonia, Farmington Hills, and the FBI then decided to search Hines Park. If it was someone who was committing these acts over and over again, and if it was Floyd Galloway committing these acts over and over again, that has serial offense traits. And oftentimes, as you see in serial killers and other serial crime offenders, they tend to go back to the same places over and over again, which could mean that Danielle was at Hines Park. This is when they made it very evident that they were looking for a body. They were no longer looking for a missing girl that was alive. They were pretty sure they were looking for Danielle Stislicki's remains. Over 100 investigators and 14 canines and dozens of other resources were used to search Hines Park very methodically.
Dozens of people who spent the day searching through a local park, hoping to clue into what happened to a missing Farmington Hills woman.
28-year-old Danielle Stislicki disappeared after she left her job at MetLife Insurance in Southfield last December.
Absolutely nothing was found, but let me take you in to show you where they were searching deep in the woods there, right down that road. Investigators were here because this is where the person of interest in the Stislicki case is charged with attacking another woman just weeks earlier. Now other women coming forward claiming they too saw Galloway here and feared for their safety. Ronnie Howe Escobar telling us on Facebook she saw Galloway twice around the time of the attack near the location in question. She felt he wanted to do something, so she got her keys ready to fight back. More than 100 searchers tried to find Danielle Stislicki today, but it appears they came up short.
However, they found absolutely nothing, and they decided to call off the search, and they said they had no plans to go back to that location again. At this point, the Galloways had moved out of their home due to all of the searches of their home, and they had moved in with his wife's parents. On June 28, 2017, Galloway was arraigned for the crime that happened in Hines Park, and he was being held on a pretty high bond of around $750,000. Then police were led to another sexual assault that they think is possibly linked to Galloway that happened in Allen Park, which was about 40 minutes from all of the other locations. However, I can't find much at all on this case. The only thing that I could find is that the person that was attacked says that they were attacked by someone who was possibly Arabic or Indian, which obviously does not match Galloway's description. However, it was around midnight when this attack happened, so they possibly could have seen him differently, or he could have been in the wrong sort of lighting. It's very possible that there were flaws in the description that was given. Not much else has really happened in Danielle Stislicki's case. There was this big flood of information and possibilities, but the police have not released any other information. Danielle's parents have come forward because deer season is approaching, and they're asking any hunters in the area to please remain vigilant. Look out for any of the items that they are currently looking for that belong to Danielle and that she was wearing the day she went missing. She had a pair of jeans, a black zip-up shirt, a blue 3-in-1 Eddie Bauer jacket, and also some burgundy boots. None of these items, along with her phone and the pink case and the keychain, have been located at all. Police have also said, which I find very interesting, that they are looking for a blanket as tan and white striped. They did not give out much more information on this. I'm guessing it has something to do with the mattress that they took from the home. Look out for suitcases, any sort of bins, anything that looks out of place in the woods. They also said to keep in mind that these items probably have been outside in the weather for a very long time and would look kind of dirty and different. Just please remain vigilant is all that they ask. Galloway's wife at first was very uncooperative in the whole entire investigation. She was very, very angry. When they first showed up with the warrant to search the home, she did not want to let the police officers in, and they did have to give her an ultimatum. They told her either we break the door down or you let us in. She did not want to cooperate with anybody. She wanted absolutely nothing to do with this. She still stood by her husband. However, I find it interesting because in August she did file for divorce. Does that say that she possibly realized something was wrong? A lot of people think that this incriminates him when it comes to Danielle Stislicki's case. If your husband sexually assaulted someone and was being charged for that, you probably would not stay married to them either. I think it just changed from accusations to he actually really did do something possibly, and that's why she decided to get a divorce. However, I am not in her shoes. I have no idea. That is just speculation and me trying to bring both sides of possibilities to the forefront, because a lot of people are really assuming that it had something to do with knowing something about Danielle's case. On October 28th, so literally just days ago, he was in court facing charges for Hines Park assault. They offered him 15 to 35 years if he pleaded guilty to kidnapping, criminal sexual conduct, and assault with intent of bodily harm. If he agreed to this, they said the intent to murder charge would be dropped. However, also if he accepted the deal, he would have to always be registered as a sexual offender. And his response to this was basically a big old hell no. He would not agree to this plea deal. However, he has until November 10th to change his mind before his actual trial starts. This is pretty much where everything ends. I find it strange because it was almost like a little spree of incidents, and every single one seemed to possibly connect to Galloway. The thing that really gets to me about this is that, for the most part, even Danielle's parents at first thought Galloway was a nice guy. Danielle's mother said that while they worked there and while Galloway was working at MetLife, he would search her out. She said that he would kind of wander around the building and always end up in her little cubicle. She said that she just chalked it up to like a little work crush and didn't think anything about it. However, to me, that is extremely alarming if you add that onto the fact that he admitted to his sister a year and a half prior that he had thoughts of cheating and that he had a sexual addiction. You know, it is very possible he could have been preying on her, kind of scoping her situation out. He realized that she was a very friendly person and he took advantage of that. You know, then I wonder why he left MetLife. Did he want to create this distance between them so he wasn't a prime suspect at first? That's all just speculation. Keep that in mind, but I do think that's possible. The mother stated that he had always remained respectful, and at first she didn't really think much of it, but the more that the families thought about it after this incident occurred, the more alarmed they are, especially now that Elizabeth Newton's come forward with all of this information. Then that brings me to all of Elizabeth Newton's claims. So as I said before, A lot of the stuff she came forward is either something that only she would know and would have really no way of proving, or things that she said police told her but police will not say yes or no to. So it's kind of something you have to take with a grain of salt. That's what bothers me so much about it, I think. You know, that could totally sway the case. Like, that's one of the biggest pieces of information to me, yet it can't really be proved, since the police won't release any of that information. Does she just have an issue with him? I mean, keep in mind, this is an in-law situation. We all know that sometimes those situations can be very sensitive, but she did claim that they had always liked him, so the idea that she just had some sort of personal issue with him doesn't seem very likely, which would make her lying just to make him look bad not very likely. And after all, he had already been linked to the case. What, did she just see it as a prime opportunity? Did he just become linked to this case and she's like, oh, now's my chance? I've got no idea. However, keep in mind that this is her family. She is calling out the husband of one of her family members. Granted, right now they're going through a divorce, but why would she purposefully do something to harm someone and alienate herself from her own family? I mean, not very likely to me, but again, you never know. I mean, people at the office said that they saw her. They saw Danielle with Floyd Galloway the night she went missing. I think it's ironic that his car just so happens to break down right in front of an area of work, right at the time that he knew she would possibly be leaving. And he knew what the kind of person that she was. He knew that she would offer help. She literally just radiated that vibe from her. So I think it's way too much of a coincidence. And then to top that off, the information that the sister-in-law gave, I mean, it all just goes hand in hand a little too well. People then did see her at his home. Neighbors claim that they saw her there. So that being said, did she drive him home? Did she offer to help? Maybe he said, hey, thanks for the ride, you know, come in for a minute so we can talk. I feel bad making you drive all the way over here. Just being friendly with very bad intentions. Being the kind of person she was, she probably would have said yes to this and would have gone inside. And at that point, maybe that's where this mattress, the floorboards, and the comforter come into play. Maybe he did have a sex addiction and he tried to make sexual advances on her. Maybe he got a wrong impression from her when he worked there. Maybe he thought because she was being so nice, she had some sort of interest in him. At the time that she went missing, his wife was in the hospital, so she wouldn't have been home. Maybe Danielle denied him and it made him angry and he was going to get what he wanted one way or another and sexually assaulted her and then killed her in the process. Maybe that's why they're looking for this blanket. Maybe they took the floorboards because there was evidence of blood on them and they wanted to DNA test it. I have no idea. There are just so many things in this case. It seems very cut and dry and very obvious. From the beginning, they've never treated this like just a missing persons case. It has always been a criminal missing persons case. Foul play has been suspected from day one. But I do have a few questions when it comes to transportation of possibly Danielle's body after an attack, a brutal murder. If he did kill her, if he did do something with her, they did take a car from the home. It obviously probably wasn't his car because his car was broken down the night people say that they saw him. So if she did take him home and did end up at the house, maybe since the wife wasn't home, he used her car to take the body somewhere, which is why they took the car. Maybe they found evidence of blood again inside of the vehicle. And that leads me to them believing that Danielle was not the one who drove her car home. That would make sense because obviously he does not want to keep her car there. So maybe he took the car, drove it back home, but that leads me to, did nobody see him get out of the vehicle? But that leads me to the strange timeline of her car being there when the friends and the parents got there. It seems as if they got there shortly after 6. It was 30 minutes from his home to her apartment. If she left at 5, saw him, she immediately would have had to take him home, which was 15 minutes from MetLife to his house. Then he would have had a 30-minute drive back to her apartment to drop the car back off, which gives us a total of 45 minutes. And if the friend shortly after 6 went to her apartment, I'm guessing she got there at the absolute latest, 6:30. That leaves about a 45-minute chunk of time where something could have happened. Did she drive him 15 minutes away to his house? He would have only had about 45 minutes to do something to her. And I find that very possible. However, I don't find it very likely that he would have left her body there for an extended period of time. But given the circumstances, he would have had to take her car back immediately for it to be there when the friend and the family showed up. So did he take her car, get out of it, and somehow find a bus home or walk home? It had to be pretty strategically planned, if you ask me, especially given the time frame. He would not had a lot of give or take in that situation, or someone would have seen him. I don't know what to think. I think this is definitely a crazy one. However, I do think that the police have all the information they need. They have said that they've got a pretty solid case, and I think they are just gathering as much evidence as possible. You know, when it comes to cases like this, you've got one shot. A person can't be tried for the same crime twice if they are dismissed from it. So they need to get this right in order to have justice for Danielle. And if they think he's the one who did it, I think they are just building and building and building all of their information, all their evidence against him, and they are waiting for the perfect moment. I'm so interested to see what your theories are down below. Do you think that he is just this poor man who just happened to be at the wrong place in the wrong time? Or do you think he had something to do with it? Leave all of your theories down below. I am so interested to hear them. And on that note, I'm gonna go ahead and go. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to check out all of my social media listed down below. Click the subscribe button to join our family, and I will see you in my next video. Bye guys.